We're so glad you're here. I'm Amy Atkins. This is Mike Meena, and this is Jaso Renno. And today we want to talk to you about one of those hot topics that a lot of people are buzzing about, and that's Proposition 10, and also what's happening with interest rates. So I want these two guys to address it. Again, I just want to preface this with, we are not telling you how to vote. We're not telling you which way you should lean. We're just trying to give you the information so you can make a wise decision, because this is a pretty important initiative that's on the ballot. So, and what it does, it's repealing the Costa-Hawkins Housing Act of 1995. So I'm going to let these two experts here give you a little insight. Which one of you would like to go first?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a political expert, and it's not the cost of Hawkins, it's the Costa-Hawkins. Yeah, I guess it's all the same thing, right?
Costa-Hawkins,
No, I know exactly. No,
Oh,
you did it
okay.
absolutely right, but people are going to go, what's the Costa-Hawkins? So,
Not the cost of Costa.
No, Costa-Hawkins, and it's just the people that
That's
wrote
another
it,
show.
just kind of like Dodd-Frank. So, needless to say, this is a bill that's going out there, and it's going to basically try to affect all the cities in California. And what they're going to do is they're going to allow the cities to choose who's going to be under rent control. So the city of Santa Clarita is one, the city of Los Angeles is another, city of Bakersfield or San Fernando is another, and they're all going to have their own little rules. But now all of a sudden, for the first time, they're saying, hey, we can put rent control on single family housing, which I think creates a big problem. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, rent control, that's one of the biggest benefits when you're, as an investor, going and purchasing either single family units or multi-units, whatever the case may be, that's one of the biggest things they look at as well as the rent control. Because then you have an investor who comes in and, say, purchases a disheveled house or house that needs work. Well, where's the incentive to go in and improve that housing for the tenants and make a difference and give them a nicer place to live if the tenants are still going to be paying the same rent that they did back in 1977 or whatever the case may be? There definitely has to be some sort of, where you give and you get. If you get a nicer house, then obviously a nicer house should, in essence, cost you more, correct?
Right, exactly. So the landlords aren't going to keep the houses nicer. And it's kind of interesting because you look at, take a Burbank, where Burbank has never had rent control, and then you take the city of Los Angeles, which is, say, Toluca Lake, which is right on the border of it, and they do have rent control. And it's not like the rents are really different in those two, but you can get into a place and stay lower for a long time. But then again, you go and you look at some of these Toluca Lake dilapidated or North Hollywood dilapidated places, and in Burbank the prices have really surged all around it. So there's arguments both ways. I mean, I've read so much on this that I really can't tell you what's going to be right from wrong, but sometimes sticking with the status quo isn't a terrible thing, and saying, oh gosh, we're going to lower rents. A lot of people think one of the reasons we have a housing crisis here in California is due to the fact that we have rent control in Los Angeles County or in certain areas of the state, and they think that it would be easier to build, easier to make money, and we'd have more housing at that point. So I don't know. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, that is a big issue. Everybody figured it's just easier to build more than to go purchase another house and rehabilitate it if there's rent control in place. So, with permits and everything else, it's obviously severely hindered our housing market right this second.
Yeah. There's 12,000 arguments for and against. Obviously, we're trying to keep rents down as low as possible because people need to have an affordable housing. We've got a huge homeless population that's ever increasing. We've got other issues. I don't know that this proposition is the right answer, nor do I know that it's the wrong answer. But read your ballot, see what you think, and I think it's really important going forward on the real estate side. I know that Department of Real Estate and everybody on that side is saying, oh no, don't do it, it's not good. You have Democrats and Republicans both saying the same thing, that it's good or bad or whatever it may be. There was a guy from, not Caltech, but Cal Berkeley, that says this would be the worst thing for California housing prices. Everybody's got their own little opinion, but it's interesting. So let's see here. Jason, we've had 104 months below 5% on the interest rates here. What did we see this
The
week?
exact months, huh? So now we're hitting 5%.
104 months in 52 years, yeah. It's great. So now we're over 5%, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're in 5% in some of the areas. FHA, VA is still below that.
Correct.
Certain programs are not. Pay some points, you get down below 5%. So when the Dodgers won the World Series in 1988, you know what the interest rates were then?
Only because I've heard you say it, but yeah, over 10%.
10.4%, okay? The Rams won back in 2000. Interest rates in 2000 were in the 8s. So is this a normal market? I mean, we're getting to normalcy here with interest rates. So what I'm telling my clients, and I know you're telling the clients the same thing, is this may be the best we ever see interest rates ever again. It's kind of like today at 53. This is the best I'm ever going to look. I'm never going to look better than this. It only goes downhill from here. And I think, that's kind of what we're seeing is, okay, interest rates are 5%. In a year, they're going to be 6 or 7 or 8. It's normal.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, what's the saying? The best time to buy a house was 5 years ago, which is very true today.
Yeah.
5 years ago would have been the best time, but now, 5 years from now, you're going to look back and say the exact same thing. With 5% interest rates, we talked about it on the last show, you have a lot more houses on the market. Back when there was 3.5% interest rates, you had 1 or 2 houses to choose from. Now you have more inventory, more houses to choose from. We see prices leveling off, and yeah, I mean, a 5% rate historically is still amazing, and now it's still a great time to purchase because, like you just mentioned, we're going to be seeing 6 and 7 here in the future.
Well, and the economy's great. Did you want to say something? Because we're just talking back and forth. You
That's
just sit
good.
here
No,
and
I'm
look pretty,
just
okay?
good.
Because you're really
No,
good
I
at
was
that.
listening to the financial reports, which I do every morning, and the one thing, and I listened to several of them, the one word that they were all using was normal.
Uh-huh.
They were all using the word normal, that we're getting back to more of a normal market, and they were talking about, inflation, trying to keep that under 2%, but actually if it goes a little bit above, they're okay with that too, so.
Right. Well, and there is no inflation. At 2%, we're in great shape. I mean, 3% is right about where it starts to get on the edge, and when we get into the high 3s and 4s is where we have problems. But so we look at it today. Talking to my dad, he works, he's 80 years old because that's what we do in our family. We work till we die. I don't know what happens. But needless to say, Dad was saying that at his company they have 57 job openings. He says starting engineer makes 80 grand a year. He said you go over to Lockheed, they have hundreds of job openings. There are job openings all over the place. Look at the trucking industry. If you're looking for a job, and I'm not saying you're looking for a job, hopefully you have a great job, but I might be looking for a job someday, and I'm going to look in the trucking industry because I'm telling you, there are more truckers needing jobs for truckers and stuff like that. Guys that are willing to drive overnight, long-term, short-term, whatever that is, especially with all the Amazon deliveries and stuff like that. It's really blown up that whole industry. So right now, we have a job shortage more so than this unemployment thing. I know people that are unemployed, and there's a reason they're unemployed, and then there's other people that just don't want to work and that kind of stuff. But so we're seeing an economy that's really starting to flourish, and I don't know, I'm not going to give anybody credit for it, but what I'm saying is we could see 6, 7, 8% interest rates again. So 5% looks pretty darn good for today, doesn't it?
But isn't that a product of having a good economy?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And normal, you hit the nail on the head with normal is everybody got so used to 3-point-something% interest rates, and then they ticked up to 4 and they were still okay, but that's not a normal market. 3.5% 30-year fixes aren't a normal market. The money's just too cheap at that point.
Yeah.
And little like you had mentioned trucking. Right now I'm in the COC Foundation board. There's a big influx needed of nurses in California. With the increased population, the hospitals opening up, that's a huge sector that is they project is going to be severely understaffed here in the coming years. Nurses start at what, 80, 90 grand a year. You get a full-time nurse putting in some overtime. You can easily see $120,000 on their W-2. Another great job with obviously take some education. You got to go back to school for a couple of years or go to school for a couple of years. But yeah, little sectors like that you can make $80,000 to $120,000 a year are everywhere nowadays.
Right off the top, yeah. And so there's great industries like that. I mean, just a few years ago, we had too many teachers, and now we have a shortage of teachers again. So we've got that whole thing happening again, and it just means we have a good economy. We saw, a 40% drop in prices. They had to do something to spur the economy. The only thing that could happen here is if interest rates get too high too fast and prices get too high too fast, the real estate slows down, but that's only one sector of the market. Everything crashed in 2007 and 2008. Not everything's crashing right now. Everything else is going really nice.
So for people watching, all right guys, tell them, how do you feel? Do you feel enthusiastic? Do you feel good about this market? What do you see moving forward?
I definitely feel enthusiastic. Like we've just mentioned a couple of times, 5% is still an amazing rate. Your home prices are still, it's California, and they're never technically affordable compared to the rest of the country.
Right.
But when you're living in California making $100,000 a year, when somebody back east is doing the same job, making $60,000 a year, it's all relative, and you got sunshine 303 days of the year.
Okay, so that person that's out there watching right now, hopefully more than one person, but that person that's watching right now and is saying to themselves, I think I'll wait. Mike, what do you have to say about that?
You just keep waiting. Wait till we get to 7, 8, 9%. Wait till the price of the house that you're looking at $500,000, $650,000. Real estate makes millionaires. Okay, that's what it comes down to. You look at all of the people that you sit there and you go, oh, gee, the Bus family that owns the Lakers, which is not me, and should be, but isn't. Real estate. McNall, when he used to own the Kings, real estate. The guy who owns the what's his name, the Angels. Okay, he did it real estate in a different way. He did it with real estate and billboards. But this is where all the money is.
He was in real estate, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, he had money from all the other stinking stuff up north.
The majority of millionaires throughout the world have made it through real estate. I mean,
and it's not even, think about how many people do you know that have 5 or 6 properties and have had those for years and are broke? Nobody. Okay. I was just talking to one of the loan officers earlier today. He's like, oh yeah, my brother-in-law, he turned 4 properties into 16 properties, and he's now worth, X amount of millions of dollars because he did this over the last 20 years after he got a decent inheritance. This is how it goes. You don't need an inheritance. You need 0 down in some situations, 3.5%, 3%, whatever will get you in a house.
Just start somewhere.
Jason, your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere. You don't have to be the next, real estate mogul overnight, or it's not going to happen overnight. But yeah, starting somewhere, get into that first house, build up a little equity, then turn that equity into your second house. And it's something that takes time, and it's something that you're probably going to have to sacrifice for. You might not have the nicest car on the block, but if you have 3 houses versus the biggest lease payment, overall, in the long run, you're going to come out ahead.
But those lease payments, don't you think that's a much better thing?
Chasing the
Joneses.
Joneses.
Get a new purse, I was looking on Nordstrom Rack last night. I saw a belt for $532. I'm like, hey, it's on sale. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I'll just stick with what I got.
Because that one
it holds my pants up. Oh my God,
yeah,
it really will.
Dolce &
Gabbana or something. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
All right, guys, so we got a lot of information here today. We talked about Proposition 10. We talked about what's happening in interest rates. And we also talked about, should you buy, should you wait, should you sit on the fence? I think we've answered those questions pretty well today. So please feel free to give us a like, give us a share. Share this blog with someone who might be on the fence and wondering if they should buy. So we're glad you're here. We appreciate it. Check us out at Meena Renno. I'm going to get this eventually.
Meena Renno, yes.
MeenaRennoLending.com. Mike
go.
Meena, Jason Renno.
And Amy.
And
she's the .com.
I'm the .com.
One more thing on sitting on the fence. Last time I sat on the fence and then I got off the fence, I ripped my pants. So it's not a good thing to sit on the fence. Get off the fence.
Good point, Mike Meena. All right, guys. We'll see you soon, and thank you so much for watching.
Have a great day, guys.